This is Janice of Dorval. The International Radio Report presents 30 minutes of news, information, and commentary on developments in the world of radio every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, January the 25th, 2026. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Jill. We thank you for tuning in to our show. We are here every Sunday morning with 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. We have some stories from Canada, some international stories coming up, some news on some pirate activity, and whatever else we can squeeze into our 30 minutes. We thank you for tuning in. We're going to start today's show off with some news from the CBC, which is rather encouraging. The Canadian Broadcasting News announces plan to create and staff 11 new bureaus. This comes from Connie Thiessen of Broadcast Dialogue. CBC News has announced it's expanding its footprint with plans to create 11 new local bureaus and hire 33 journalists. The news bureaus increase the public broadcaster's presence to 77 bureaus and stations, including 3 additional locations in Saskatchewan and 2 each in the Yukon, Manitoba, and Quebec. Those new communities are Richmond, BC, Haines Junction and Dawson City, Yukon, Swift Current, Yorkton, and Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Flin Flon and the Selkirk Interlake region in Manitoba, the Peel region in Ontario, and Sept-Îles, North and Lower North Shore, and Chateauguay-Montérégie in Quebec. The expansion is in addition to the 30 journalists CBC hired across 22 locations last summer. We see this historic investment in local journalism as another meaningful opportunity to connect more Canadians with each other and the important untold stories of their communities, said Brodie Fenlon, General Manager and Editor-in-Chief, CBC News. The expansion is in line with the proximity pillar of CBC Radio-Canada's new 5-year strategic plan and Here for Canada strategy, which aims to increase the national public broadcaster's presence, relevance, trust, and relationship with communities across the country by telling the stories that matter and elevating those stories to national audiences. As we establish our new bureaus, we are committed to preserving and improving on the diversity of trusted news sources that local communities can rely on, said Barbara Williams, Executive Vice President, CBC. We look forward to championing the work of other news organizations in these communities and will seek opportunities to support and partner with them in the best way possible to contribute to a healthier media ecosystem for Canadians. In addition to the new bureaus, CBC has launched 44 additional regional web pages on cbcnews.ca, available at cbc.ca/local. It's also expanding its local news podcasts slate into 15 locations with the launch of This Is podcasts in Kelowna and Quebec City in February. The new journalist roles will be posted in the coming weeks. CBC says 22 of the 33 new roles will be stationed in the 11 new bureaus. So this is great news.
Yep.
More in-depth coverage across the country, areas that maybe didn't have a lot of focus on what was going on. I think it's going to balance out reporting all the way across the country and also give a whole bunch of journalists new jobs.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, especially when we looked at the ratings a few weeks ago and we could see that the CBC Radio-Canada is extremely popular across Canada. So this is definitely some really good news. So the FCC plans to fine 4 individuals for pirate activity around New York City. And this is via Radioworld. 4 alleged radio pirates in the greater New York City area each face a possible $20,000 fine from the Federal Communications Commission. The FCC said Jean Boncoeur broadcast Radio Gold Stars on 90.5 megahertz out of a residence in Spring Valley, New York. It said Ellsworth Toohey operated Radio Model or Radio Télé Model on 88.9 megahertz, also in Spring Valley. It said Anderson Lennox Elcock allegedly operated Wild FM on 106.3 megahertz in Brooklyn. And it said Robert Bacune operated Powerhouse Radio on 98.5 megahertz in Irvington, New Jersey. The FCC issued notices of apparent liability for a $20,000 forfeiture against each. They have 30 days to pay or to seek to have the penalty reduced or dismissed. Federal law allows pirate fines up to $122,000 per day and $2.4 million in total, but the FCC's base forfeiture is $20,000. In each case, the FCC cited a single day in January of last year when it detected on-air broadcasts, though in at least 2 of these cases the broadcasts appear to have been going on for years. The FCC believes that Bacune has been involved in Powerhouse Radio since at least 2018, and it said Radio Model's website states that Toussaint established the station in 2006. The cases were investigated using a mix of direction finding, audio recording, and FCC review of the station's online streams, social media posts, and property tax records. The notices were issued by Patrick Weber, acting director of the Enforcement Bureau. So you do illegal pirate activity, you get caught, and it's interesting to see that some of them go back so many years.
Well, that's the surprising part of this story. What took them so long? I mean, even the ones that they're charging them against took place last January, a year ago, before they can even issue these notices. That seems a little strange, but New York is a hotbed for these type of operations, and here's 4 in one shot, and there's many more out there, probably some that they haven't even discovered yet. So very interesting to see what's going on. We have a big event coming up. Via Radio Info Asia, World Radio Day 2026 has announced its theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence. On February the 13th, the world will celebrate World Radio Day, proclaimed by UNESCO under the 2026 theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence. Proclaimed in 2011 by UNESCO member states and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012, World Radio Day is celebrated every February 13th. It is a day to thank broadcasters for the news they deliver, the voices they amplify, and the stories they share. As artificial intelligence reshapes the landscape of media production and distribution, this edition invites all voices, human and digital, to come together and reflect on the ethical, accessible, and creative future of radio. Today, artificial intelligence opens a new chapter, not just for innovation, but for deepening their bond with listeners. When used ethically and responsibly to support professional judgment, creativity, and public service values, AI can become an ally in strengthening audience trust. Technology alone does not build trust, radio broadcasters do. World Radio Day provides a unique platform for broadcasters, organizations, and individuals to celebrate radio's past achievements and its future potential. On February 13, 2026, communities around the globe are invited to take part in broadcasts, discussions, and educational events that spotlight the lasting influence of radio. Join the global celebration to support radio as a powerful force of unity, education, and cultural exchange. Every participant can register for free on UNESCO's Global Interactive Map, and we'll put up the link for that in our YouTube channel. So they encourage stations around the globe to register and to have special events to mark the occasion of February the 13th, World Radio Day. I'll check with CKUT here at our station. Hopefully something will be put together for that day as well. So check with your local stations, check the website for UNESCO's World Radio Day, and see what is going to take place this year. It should be interesting bringing AI into the picture.
Oh, yeah, and there's a a lot of controversy and a lot of interesting things that can happen. One station that I know participates every year and always has some events is Radio Romania International. They do celebrate the World Radio Day. So they will probably have some announcement about this and often ask participation from its listeners. So what's happening with our sun? Well, we can say that our sun this week was really active. So there was an X2 class solar flare, and it would usually, solar flares take, the coronal mass ejection take 2-3 days to reach the Earth. This one is less than 24 hours. It was a really fast-moving cloud, and it punched a major geomagnetic storm which reached almost the extreme level of K9 out of 9. So it's like a really extreme geomagnetic storm. And, auroras were visible everywhere. It was amazing. I've seen pictures all the way down to Arizona where they could see some of the auroras. And it really packed a powerful dent in radio listening. Everything just disappeared suddenly from the shortwave bands, the medium wave bands. It was just incredible. But I did tune because when that happens, there's always these unusual things that can happen. Medium wave can suddenly become open to areas where you'll never usually hear any stations. We know that often we hear, stations in Spanish, for example, from Central South America and so on. I was on the amateur bands mostly, and it was very weird. Like, I was on 30 meters when the coronal mass ejection hit the Earth, and it immediately changed. And in the space of about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, everything disappeared. And there was one station, though, I think it was from Louisiana, from the southern U.S., and it was the only station that I could decode. Nothing else was there. And it was like, that's so unusual. It's why that station? Another example that was bizarre is around 0200 UTC on 20 meters. I just let FDA decode anything. I thought probably there's nothing. Yeah, there was one single little station, and it was an Argentina station that was on. And I was like, wow. I tried to contact, didn't work. But it's so bizarre to see that type of propagation going on. Medium wave, I started tuning around the medium wave band that night, and nothing, except for the local stations. It was like listening in the daytime. You get the local stations, there's nothing else. None of the regular New York stations and so on. Quite interesting to monitor, actually. The sun is full of sunspots right now, so the same thing could happen again. We never know. So sunspot number 206, we don't see that very often. The solar flux is 194. So the geomagnetic storm lasted a good 2 days, solid 2 days, and subsided somewhat. But there's also a coronal hole that's sending out some solar wind right now that could impact our planet. So it could be the solar wind. It could be, of course, a powerful flare, because there's one sunspot that is capable of X flares. So I think this is going to be another rock and roll week for the sun. We're up and down, depending on what's happening. And, of course, to witness all of this, to listen to those weird stations popping up when something like that happens, you got to turn on a radio and listen.
This is Amanda Dawn Christie telling you that if you're interested in radio, AM, FM, shortwave, amateur radio, pirate broadcasting, and more, you won't want to miss the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
So we have news of the Belarus that threatens ham radio operators with death penalty for espionage. This is by Ellsworth Toohey, Boing Boing zine blog directory. 7 amateur radio operators in Belarus have been charged with treason and espionage crimes that carry life imprisonment or death for their heinous act of owning ham radio equipment. The state is presenting QSL confirmation cards, postcards that are exchanged between operators worldwide, as proof of contact, as evidence of clandestine reporting to NATO agents. State television displayed mountains of confiscated Baofeng handhelds and SDR dongles as proof of high-level espionage. Anyone familiar with the hobby knows this hardware is physically incapable of cracking modern AES 256 encryption used by government security forces. The prosecution's evidence amounts to logbooks documenting peaceful international contacts. The entire point of ham radio. We are witnessing the systematic and intentional destruction of an entire technical community, writes exiled Belarusian operator Siare Bessarab. This is targeted intellectual ethnocide against the most skilled and curious minds in the country. He notes that had he still been active in Belarus, his own call sign would have placed me in front of a firing squad. The crackdown follows Belarus' earlier purge of Wikipedia editors and independent researchers. Amateur radio has historically served as an emergency communication lifeline when all other systems fail. Now practicing it in Belarus could get you killed. That is sad. And, trying to go after amateur radio operators, which here, from what we see, have been doing pretty innocent contacts. And it is true that, real spy and espionage is, done with some really sophisticated encryption that amateur radio operators are not capable of cracking.
I know we heard some Belarus operators during the recent CQ Worldwide contest. There were a few of them on the air, just making contacts, participating in the contest. But this is a very strange crackdown all of a sudden. And there are countries in the world where ham radio is outlawed. You can't do it at all. Obviously, these Belarusians that we heard on the air, they had their call signs. Everything seems to be fine. But now all of a sudden, this story has surfaced. So it's kind of scary. I'm sure anybody there is going to be thinking twice about popping on the air. And using QSL cards as proof that these people have been contacting. Wow, that's going pretty deep.
Yeah.
This is an interesting story via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio IO group. The Malaysia and Kuwait shortwave future plans, ? Maybe. The High Frequency Coordination Committee A26 is underway in Kuala Lumpur, presumably hosted by RTM, the national broadcaster of Malaysia, but a country which does not even have an entry into the international shortwave pages of the World Radio TV Handbook 2026. So, on January 21st, I asked Jeff White, does this mean that Malaysia might get back on shortwave itself? I believe the last frequency, 11665, has been inactive lately. We'll look for news from you about this. And Jeff responded, believe it or not, Malaysia is not even here at the conference, A26. So, unfortunately, there is no news about them. But later, he responded, got some info about RTM. They have 3 100-kilowatt shortwave continental transmitters, and the Continental rep is going to the site, some 35 miles from Kuala Lumpur, tomorrow to do some maintenance or to see what needs to be worked on. Also, they have bought 2 new 100-kilowatt shortwave Ampagon transmitters, which are being installed now and should be in operation soon. I'm told they are for domestic broadcasting, perhaps mostly for Malaysian Borneo. Arpagon has also sold 4 300-kilowatt shortwave transmitters to the US AGM in Kuwait, which I don't think have been installed yet. So this is speculation at this point, but why would shortwave transmitters being bought unless shortwave stations were going on the air?
Yep. Definitely. I can imagine these 300 kilowatts shortwave transmitters still in their crates somewhere in Kuwait, waiting to be installed.
Exactly. And man, it would be really nice to get another country back on shortwave. I don't know if I ever heard Malaysia when they were on, but it would be nice to have them back on the air as well.
There's a few weeks back also, I had heard something about, somebody had mentioned they had heard Radio Kuwait on the shortwave bands on one frequency. And from what I remember, they were talking about the fact that Radio Kuwait still has its shortwave transmitters. They're still functional. They're just not turned on for any broadcast. So, hey, you've got them. Why not use them? We have Voice of America that resumed Chinese service on shortwave. This is from Takahito Akabayashi from Glenn Hauser's World of Radio I.O. group. According to Xiaoling Broadcasting Station, VOA resumed Chinese service on shortwave at 2200 UTC, January 19th. And the schedule is as follows. Monday to Friday, 2200 to 2230 UTC via the Tinan transmitter site, 250 kilowatts. It's the frequency is 7500. And from Kuwait transmitter, 7560, 250 kilowatts also. 10 minutes of news about the activities of President Trump was repeated 3 times. It sounded like the voice of Trump. Chinese government might have noticed around 2220 UT as they jammed 7500 kilohertz by Voice of China, but no jamming against 7560. The original article with recordings, we will share the link to, so that you can go and check it out. I myself confirmed in Tokyo on January 20th, and he says, fair to strong signal strength in Tokyo, but severely jammed by Voice of China during transmission on both frequencies. And Joe Hanlon reports at 2226 UT on January 20th, using the U20 receiver in the Netherlands, fair to poor signal on both 7500, which signed off with Yankee Doodle interval signal, 7560 kilohertz, which did not use the interval signal. There was some QRM, presumably China radio, but it was difficult to confirm in Europe. I'm amazed at how fast China gets on the jamming side every time something pops up. They definitely have lots of monitoring going on to see what's out there.
And lots of transmitters to put the jamming on the air too. So, we've talked about this many, many times. We don't know how many shortwave transmitters there are in China and how much monitoring is being done to go chase down and jam signals that they don't want people to hear. So here's another example of it. But interesting to see VOA back on. It seems to me that VOA is popping services on the air without any fanfare, without people, particularly in the U.S., having any clue of what's going on. And we've talked about that in the past, that, shutting VOA down may have simply been like, oh, look how much money we've just saved for something that most Americans probably didn't know anything about in the first place. But the infrastructure seems to be there, and when they want to flip it back on, they're able to do so. And this is a perfect example of that happening.
Yeah, and what we see from a lot of the monitoring going on, whatever service they put back on, it's not the same VOA as we had before.
That's true, yeah.
So we have an update on a amateur radio DXpedition going on.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, and it's an operation that's really attracting a lot of attention. It's on Desicheo Island, which is a little bit off of Puerto Rico. And we told you that they will be on the air for a solid month, but we got confirmation from one of our CIDX members, Don Moman, that the ham DXpedition station is being operated remotely only. Now that means that the hams are not actually on Desicheo Island. They were there at some point to be able to set up the equipment, but this is a very highly restricted spot on the planet, and they have not been given permission to operate from the island itself. So the equipment is there. It's very basic equipment, apparently, and different ham operators in different locations have access to it online, I guess, and are operating the station remotely. So this is something that some people, won't care about, that, it's a signal coming from that island. But there'll be others who say, well, this is kind of a hybrid type of operation. The station is there, but the operators are not. So does that really count to their DXCC contact list? I guess it's a personal choice. Talking to Don, he didn't really seem to care very much about, so the transmitter's there, it's coming from the island, but the operators aren't there. But there might be other people, I think, who really don't like this. As we saw in a story a few weeks back of Norway saying, we're not going to let anybody do these remote broadcasts from anywhere. I guess it's up to the individual to decide what they think about it.
Yeah, and on the website, you have a little panel that shows up not only their frequencies they are transmitting and the mode they're using, but it's interesting because they have, from what I see, solar panels that are charging batteries. And there's always the information of the amount of charge on the batteries and so on. So I suspect also that operation is very low power in order for this to be able to work. Especially remotely, you don't have the ability to go and fix anything. You just set it up and you leave it there working on its own.
It's apparently very basic equipment, very simple installation. It's a highly restricted area for all kinds of different reasons, but they really don't want people there. They were lucky to be able to get there and set up that system.
Yeah.
But they'll probably only go back to take it down once the activity is finished. So get them while you can. They are active. I've heard them on 2 bands already. Signals are not that bad. I mean, Puerto Rico's not that far away from North America, so if conditions are right, of course, during the geomagnetic storm, forget about it.
Yeah.
But now you should be able to check them out. So use the DX spotting sites online to see what frequencies they're on as well, and who's making contact with them will give you some indication as to whether you might be able to make contact or simply just hear them. The pile-ups are huge, so you've got to be patient if you want to try to get through to them.
Yep, absolutely. So we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in. We will give you our contact information if you'd like to reach us. Email radioreport@yahoo.com. We're live streaming and archived at ckut.ca. Our Facebook group, we have 990 members. We'd love to crack that 1,000 mark. If you've been listening to us and you haven't joined our Facebook group, look for us at International Radio Report and join the Facebook group. And finally, if you want to listen to our show at your convenience, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@IRR, where you will find our shows stored. So that will do it for this week. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again next Sunday on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.